Righty. So week 4, and as normal, I'm actually recording early. Actually, you all are working on your week 2 Learn Together. And I said in week 3 attendance, I was going to cover the week 6 Dev 0 requirements. So just let you know that our Learn Together today is actually like a little mini dev work. Okay, so it takes into some of those requirements, makes you come up with some code. But these are listed here. I'll just quickly look at them, right? So what you're going to do is come up with a concept. It does need to be meaningful. You'll put it in your dev in your private repo. Dev underscore 0 is where it goes. Yeah. In the work, I want to see you implement these things with your concept is converting strings to ints and ints to strings, getting and validating user input. We're going to see some of this before we get there, but imagine, we're getting user input on the command line, so having some kind of check. Implementing randomization, using flow control, using loops and lists, writing PEP8. And if you use code, if you happen to use something outside of the course or you found, you do need to give reference to that because the idea is that this is all your own code. Now, I have had in the last couple semesters a couple of students who were a bit more advanced. And if you are planning on using third-party libraries, which I don't really recommend for this first one, but if you're really passionate, you do need to do the additional step of setting up a virtual environment. I'll have a video on that you can check out. And this one I almost dropped, but I decided I'd leave it in here. I think it's good to be able to write code that doesn't use functions before we do functions because it makes you appreciate them. But if you already have some experience and you're like, I really need to use functions, okay. Once this does have to be submitted by the 14th, you can definitely come in and talk to me. I highly suggest it, but that code has to be submitted on the 14th. I will have a schedule for students to sign up. It's basically my office hours extended a little bit. If you don't come in for a code review, I'll grade your work as is with a beginning discount of 50%. So don't put yourself in that situation. If you bring code that doesn't function into a code review, that will definitely subject you to points off. And then during the code review, you'll walk me through your code. You'll need to tell me how your code is functioning and answer any questions I have regarding it. Okay. Sessions will be done on Zoom. And again, I'll have a schedule set up. You can come in before a code review if you feel like you just, and I recommend that. Now, having said that and kind of quickly gone over it, I will do a video just going over my example of the Dev 0, what I wrote for my example, for my own benefit, and hopefully for yours. So that's there. So now let's go over a few things. So now that I've gone over that, a couple things is make sure your code runs, right? So always run your code before you submit it. And I mean this for both the code along, the each day work and the learn together work. Is way important to do that. And then debugging tool in VS Code, there is, that's part of the reason VS Code is so powerful, is that it's got a nice built-in tools for walking through your code, which is awesome, right? I just want to show you how to get to that tool and what that looks like. And I'll show you that after I go over my work or go over the Learn Together. I'm not going to actually go over my code yet. I will do that in a video that I'll attach to the Learn Together. So just a word about week 5. So let's just go look at it. So day 5. Day 5's final project. Oh, I haven't pushed it yet. Okay, let me go open it. Then I need to push it. Day 5's final project is really a good challenge. Okay. And it's in creating a password. And there's 2 modes on that for the password. One is doing it hard mode and an easy mode. And I've said in there, like, tell me, right, Tell me in there if you took the hard or the easy or both. I ended up doing both just because I wanted the additional experience of doing it because I did it differently last time I taught this course, and I noticed just in the process of doing this semester, I came up with a different solution. But this is such a good challenge. Okay, so do give it, like I say all the time, give it its due. Give it some time to see if you can come up with how to create that random password. Okay. Okay, and like always, and I need to put that in here, but I'm hopefully getting you used to the idea that you're submitting your commits. And then what I look for are these commit messages that I ask for. And make sure you're writing PEP 8 compliant because that's something probably already by now I've started giving you feedback on if you're not writing it. Okay. Okay, so I'll push that before you see it. So the last thing for this week, and it's the daily decision. So I actually do this in my JavaScript class, but we do this in week 2, and I'm having you do it in week 4 as a mini little project experience of dev 0. So doing this should get you ready for doing the dev. Okay. So in this case, I want you to think of a decision that you make every day or very often, and then write code that demonstrates the logic of your decision making process using the following Python code that we've learned. So getting user input, at least two, inputs, like two things from the user, using if, and else, comparison, randomization, f strings, list, and loops. Okay. And then push your code and provide a link, right? Write something about the process of doing this. So I'm going to move over to my VS Code real quick. I'm going to drop this, and I've already been running my code, but so I'll first just show you my code running. So by the way, after you have your code open and you hit run, and you happen to be down at the command line already, maybe doing user input, you can up arrow and it'll run. Uh-oh, I think it will. Oh, it must have changed the terminal. Might have changed the terminal. Let's see here. Let's see if that does it. Oh, it does. Okay, what happened was I had just closed the terminal out. So then here's my decision. Today is Monday, the current time, which class of my code is actually based on the current time, what time I'm going to the gym, what I can do for that day, output that. So let's say I'm going to go to the 9 o'clock class. So it says, it also has a you are driving, because if I'm driving, it takes a little more time, shows me how much time I have available. And then it actually does tell me what I can do. Make and drink coffee, meditate, get morning sun. And then on Tuesday, so then it comes around to the next day. Actually, I need to check my logic on that one. So now I have it randomly selecting the time, and I have it randomly figuring out if I'm going to drive or not. And then, like I said, it outputs that message. So now it's going to ask me again. Now on Tuesday, current time is 7. I'm going to go to the 9 o'clock class. I can get all that done. So it says get all that done. I love getting up early, and then it comes around to Wednesday. Okay. So I'm going to just control C my code because I think you get the idea. So this is just walk. Now your code does not and should not operate like mine, because this is really you coming up with what your solution would be here. Okay. And that is so important because it is really tempting to go look at somebody else's code and kind of base yours on that. It's more helpful for you to come up with your own idea and implement that based on the requirements to the best of your ability. Because that process is, and I know I've been harping on it in this class, but it is really what you're here to learn, right? So I want you to give that its due. So, ask questions if you have about that. Make sure it's PEP 8 compliant, includes these features. Again, yours doesn't have to look like mine. It doesn't have to cycle through each day. I did that because I wanted to figure out a way to kind of use honestly, loops. I was like, how could I use loops? Oh, yeah. And I figured out a way to do it. And maybe just by watching it, you get an idea, right? And again, there's a good and bad of that, right? Because I would rather see what you create on your own. Okay, so I'm going to pause and I'm going to go pull up an example so I can show you the debugger real quick. Okay, so I decided just to pull up the final for day 5, and I'm not going to walk through all the code. I just want to give you in this experience or in this view just a quick look at how to run the debugger. So if you move your mouse to the left side of a line and you were to click it, what it does is it sets a point, what we call a breakpoint into your code, so that when you run it with the debugger, it's going to stop the operation of your code. So in this case, down here, I'm going to hit run and debug, run and debug. And so what it'll do is it will just, based on the file that I'm in, it'll pause the execution, and now I have some options. And most often in the beginning, what you're doing is just stepping into your code. So if I step into this line where it declares a variable that is a string of all the capital and lowercase and uppercase letters, right? It is executing each, and what it does is it read all those entries, and now I have it in the computer memory, and you can see this over here. I have this variable, okay, and this variable now is representing all those string values, which you have been learning. But this just gives you a visual look. It's like she's been talking about using that visualization code, which is, by the way, good, and you can continue to do that. But this is just learning how to use the tools that we have at hand. So in this case, if I was inside of a function, or if I wanted to jump over, like I didn't want to see this, I just wanted to jump over it, it would go to the next line. It wouldn't really do anything. That's more typically if you have a function call, but it still is the same idea of just, and you can also, in this case, step out of it, right? So I don't think step 8, yeah, so step out would actually say, okay, let's just continue to run the code, and it would drop into there. So why is this helpful? Well, this is helpful because it will help you troubleshoot issues in your code. Okay. So get used to now just knowing how to run it, seeing some of its output, because trust me, at some point you're going to write some code, you may have already, that you're going to try to figure out, why is it doing that? And this tool is honestly, in my opinion, one of the best, because it made me a better coder the more I use Debugger. So I'm going to just go ahead and stop right there. Okay. Okay. So hopefully this gives you a good overview of what you need to do this week. And yes, this is a little mini dev 0, getting you ready for writing code with. And so some of these things you will see them in the dev 0, but I want you to have that experience. And I think this is a good way to get it. All right. Hope this helps. Talk to you later.